Now that you've learned the 5 steps of the scientific method, you're ready to look at the process in more detail. So in this screencast, the focus is going to be on 2 of the 3 main types of research methods. After you have stated your research hypothesis in step 2 of the scientific method, in step 3, you must decide which research method is best suited for your study. As you've learned, your choice of research method depends on the goal of your research. If the goal of your research is to describe behavior, then you would use one of the descriptive methods to collect data that will test your hypothesis. Suppose your hypothesis is people use cell phones while driving. Because this hypothesis has the goal of describing behavior, you would use a descriptive method to investigate it. So what are descriptive methods? Descriptive methods are a way of collecting data that provide a snapshot of what is occurring at a specific point in time. As a result, this technique is especially valuable in the early stages of research when researchers are trying to see whether a particular phenomenon exists. So we're going to look at 3 different descriptive methods that you could use: observational studies, self-reports, and case studies. Observational studies are a specific type of descriptive method. They involve systematically assessing and coding observable behavior. By coding, we mean determining which previously defined category the behavior fits into. For example, researchers might record the types of foods that people eat in cafeterias, count the number and types of mating behaviors that penguins engage in during their mating season, or tally the number of times they see someone using a cell phone while driving. In observational studies, the investigator does not control the behavior being observed. Observational studies are typically used in natural environments. Some researchers observe behavior at regular time intervals. These intervals may be as short as seconds or minutes, or they may be as long as years, entire lifetimes, and even across generations. By using intervals, the researchers can keep track of what research participants do at specific points in time. In your research on using cell phones and driving, you might stand at a busy intersection and watch people driving. Every 5 minutes, you could record whether the drivers you see are talking on cell phones. In this case, you would be doing an observational study using a 5-minute interval. Observational research is critical in showing what is happening so that future research can attempt to predict, control, and explain the phenomenon. However, it's often hard to observe a situation without seeing what you expect or want to see. Suppose that a person in a car alone is apparently engaged in a conversation, but is not holding a phone. The person might be using a hands-free cell phone, thinking aloud, or singing along with the radio. You need to avoid assuming that all apparent speaking when alone is a cell phone conversation. To be most objective, you would use clear rules for identifying the behavior of interest. In this case, you might record the person as using a cell phone only when you observe an actual cell phone. In conducting observational studies, researchers must guard against observer bias. Bias refers to errors in observation that occur because of the observer's expectations. Observer bias can especially be a problem if cultural norms favor behaving in certain ways. For instance, in many societies, women are freer to express sadness than men are. So, as a result, in coding men's and women's facial expressions, an observer may be more likely to rate female expressions as indicating sadness. The observer may tend to rate men's expression of sadness as reflecting annoyance or some other emotion. Another problem with observational studies is that they can produce artificial behavior. Such behavior will not reflect how people naturally behave. For example, the presence of an observer might alter the behavior being observed. Suppose people want to make a positive impression on an observer. They may act differently when they believe they're being observed. A change in behavior as a result of being observed is called reactivity. For some kinds of research, observational studies are not appropriate. A different descriptive method consists of obtaining self-reports from research participants. Questionnaires or surveys can be used to gather data from a large number of people in a short period of time. These research tools are easy to administer as well as cost-efficient. With groups that cannot be studied through questionnaires or surveys, like young children, interviews can be used. Interviews are also helpful in getting more details about the person's opinions, experiences, and attitudes. That is, the answers during the interview may lead the researchers to ask questions that they had not planned. A problem common to all self-report methods is that the people's answers can involve personal biases called self-report bias. Sometimes people may not reveal personal information that casts them in a negative light. If you're in your 20s, imagine having an interviewer around your parents' age ask you to describe intimate aspects of your life. If you're an older student, imagine a 20-something interviewer asking the same question. How truthful are you going to be? Researchers have to consider whether the questions might lead a person to respond in a way that's most socially acceptable. Any distortion of the truth, whether it's meant to please or displease, will present a biased view. Psychologists therefore design self-reports so that people feel comfortable providing information. For example, the researchers will need to make clear to the participant that all responses will be confidential. Case studies involve intensive examination of individuals. For example, a case study might try to understand an accident where a person was killed while driving. Often, case studies focus on a few unique people or organizations. For example, case studies of people with brain injuries have provided a wealth of evidence about what parts of the brain are involved in various psychological processes. In one case, a man who was accidentally stabbed through the middle part of the brain with a fencing foil, lost the ability to store new memories. This study was important for indicating which parts of the brain are involved in memory. Case studies of people with psychological disorders are used frequently in psychology. The major problem with these clinical case studies is that it's difficult to know whether the researcher's theory about the cause of the psychological disorder is correct. The researcher has no control over the person's life and is forced to make assumptions about the effects of various life events. Suppose now that you do not want to merely describe whether people use cell phones while driving. Instead, you want to study the relationship between using a cell phone and driving outcomes. To examine a naturally occurring relationship between two factors without attempting to alter them, researchers use correlational methods. How is this done? Well, in correlational methods, researchers measure the two variables and then determine the degree of relationship between them. Various methods can be used to collect data, including observational and self-report methods. If there's a relationship, knowing one variable can help you predict what might happen with the other variable. Suppose your hypothesis is more frequent use of a cell phone while driving is related to having more crashes. You could use a correlational method to test this hypothesis. To do so, you might measure people's self-reported use of cell phones while driving and also their self-reported car crash history. These data points would let you examine whether using a cell phone while driving and car crashes are related. If they are, then you can make predictions about how cell phone use is associated with car crashes. The data from your correlational study on cell phones do not show causation. They do not establish that using a cell phone while driving actually causes car crashes. Why not? A few potential problems prevent researchers from drawing casual conclusions from studies using correlational methods. One problem with correlational methods is in not knowing the direction of the relationship between variables. That is, can you determine what causes what? This sort of ambiguity is known as the directionality problem. For example, suppose you survey a large group of people about their sleeping habits and their levels of stress. Those who report sleeping badly also report having a higher level of stress. Well, does lack of sleep increase stress levels, or does increased stress lead to shorter and worse sleep? The cause-effect relationship in this example could go in either direction. But both of them could also be effects. In short, because of the directionality problem, correlational methods cannot tell you what causes a particular outcome. Another drawback of all correlational studies is the third variable problem. Say your theory is that using a cell phone while driving causes people to drive dangerously. But what if some other variable, a third variable, causes both of those factors, using a cell phone while driving and dangerous driving? For example, people who are risk takers may be more likely to use a cell phone while driving. Risk takers might also tend to make dangerous chances while driving. Thus, the real cause of both using a cell phone when driving and dangerous driving might be the third variable, which is risk-taking. Many media reports of correlational studies make it sound as though one variable causes another. failure to consider the directionality and third variable problems may lead people to make wrong conclusions about relationships. However, if you use the 3 steps in critical thinking, you can avoid making this mistake. These examples may make it seem that you should simply disregard the results of correlational studies. On the contrary, correlational studies provide important information about the natural relationships between variables. That information lets researchers make valuable predictions. For example, correlational research has shown a strong relationship between depression and suicide. For this reason, clinical psychologists often assess symptoms of depression to determine suicide risk. In addition, researchers who conduct correlational studies use statistical procedures to rule out potential third variables and directionality problems. Once they have shown that a relationship between 2 variables holds even when the potential third variable are taken into account, researchers can be more confident that the relationship is meaningful. In any case, to truly understand psychological findings, it is important to understand the difference between correlation and causation.